The 5 easiest Mercedes Benz engines to own and maintain. I did a video about the most complicated Mercedes engines, but what fun is that if you're actually starting to get into the cars? I really don't think it's a good idea to like jump into a 6.3 or something head first if you want to do your own maintenance, unless you're John Wright or something and you possess every mechanical or woodworking skill known to man. But one of the things that I always love to talk about is how many great, simple, easy to maintain, easy to service Mercedes that are out there. And so I was thinking about this video because one of our subscribers had mentioned making a video about it. I was thinking about my friend Josh, who acquired his grandpa's 78 240D automatic and has been slowly rebuilding the car one step at a time. And Josh didn't exactly go get training. He figured it out as he went. And I think that the car that I'm going to start with is the 1977 through 83 240D. These cars have an engine known as the OM616, and any car really with the OM616, whether it's a 115, which is a little more complicated because of some packaging issues, a 123, which is a lot easier, where you could service this engine more easily and get to everything, particularly like a 1980 or later version, or I don't know, a T1 Transporter or a 240 GD Geländewagen. Any engine, any car that or chassis has this engine in it is going to be an easy engine to maintain. It doesn't mean you should do no maintenance, but the idea is that it can give you a manageable environment to start learning how to maintain your classic Mercedes. The second engine that I find that's a really underrated, easy to maintain engine that a lot of people have just totally forgotten about and sort of just has fallen by the wayside is the M121 engine that was used in the 180, 190B, and 190C. Now we're going back a ways here to the Ponton cars in the 1950s and 60s, but the 180 after 1955, the 190, the 190B, which were Pontons, and the 190C, which was a Finn car, all used this engine. Now there's some complicated things in these cars that you're going to have to learn regardless, but as far as servicing them, as far as the mechanical package, which is the determinant for what a lot of people look for when they're buying one of these cars, the M121 engine is a very simple engine to maintain. It has a single barrel carburetor. It has a points distributor. It has great accessibility. It has a single overhead cam engine. It's a single overhead cam engine with valves that are very, very, very easy to adjust. Unless the adjusters are stuck and the camshaft is worn out, then you're going to have some problems. But for the most part, I recommend these engines if somebody wants a true classic Mercedes, something old school, very old school that they want to enjoy and work on themselves. Now, you're still going to have to pull the rear axle out of these cars and replace all the bushings. Still not as bad as doing it on a 108, though. You're still going to have to replace front subframe and engine mounts. Again, you've got a lot more room to work. The problem with these cars is a lot of them have fallen into disrepair, but it's much easier to deal with disrepair in a simpler car than it is a more complex car. Of all these cars, I find the easiest one to work with is probably the 190, even though it has a column shift transmission, whether it's automatic or manual. I still find that the automatic transmission versions are not even that hard to deal with. The transmissions are still pretty reliable, and the manual transmissions, once you can figure out the shift linkage, aren't that bad as well. Now our third car is going to be a little bit more modern, and the car that I really think fits this build, this sort of like simple to maintain build, that's like a more modern car, an easier car to own, would probably be like the late 1990 through 93 190E 2.3. Now, there are some things about the 190E that are a pain in the butt, like if you need a head gasket or if you have to change a belt tensioner. But within minutes, you could get the fan off and open up a ton of accessibility. For the most part, as long as you don't feed it contaminated gas, the fuel system will stay in good working order. Packaging issues and interior trim durability are better on the later cars. So if you want a car that's more durable and presentable, get a 92 or 93. But bear in mind that doing certain jobs like removing the instrument cluster or servicing the vacuum pods and the climate control system or repairing the sunroof are still going to be quite complicated. Also, the door panels are made of cardboard, so you need to learn to be careful with them. You can't just start trying to pull them off. You have to lift them up to unhook them. You know, they're doing certain repairs in the transmission, like having to replace a vacuum modulator, is a pain in the butt. However, a lot of items such as replacing a belt tensioner or a water pump or radiator are all very doable and don't require a ton of rocket science. Now, before we continue with our last two models, I want to encourage you guys to like, share, and subscribe like this video and share and subscribe if you haven't yet. I'm trying to get this channel to 50,000 subscribers by I wanted 50,000 subscribers a year ago. I think we're a lot closer, but I still want to see 50,000 subscribers by like Q1 2024. And it's crazy to think that this channel in 2024 will have basically been a thing since 2015. I mean, that's crazy. That's like 9 years. You know, that's a long time. So I appreciate you guys for sticking with me, because there was a time when I had 200 subscribers. Let's do the last two models on this chain. So I'm not a huge fan of the 202, but if you want a car to drive, it's not a classic car, that is a Mercedes, that's safe. Maybe you want to put your teenager in a car. Maybe you want your 20-year-old to have a decent car to take to college that's not going to give you a ton of headaches. It's worth looking at a W202. They're not necessarily simple to maintain from the computer perspective, but not a lot of stuff goes wrong with these cars. They're pretty basic. They're like the Toyota Corolla of Mercedes, and they're very safe. They get decent fuel economy. You know, they're different. I remember when these cars were new, they still weren't very well appreciated, but they were somewhat higher in quality than, say, an early W201, but they still had some of the niggling issues like the wiring harness problems and that were present on some of the later cars. I personally would not own one of these, but again, if you're looking for a modern Mercedes to use as a daily driver, they are reasonably reliable. You still see a lot of them on the road. The next Mercedes that I think probably takes the cake here, number 5, like the car that I personally find to be the most easy, manageable, usable combination of car, would probably be a 190D. So there's another 201 on this list, like a 2.2 or a 2.5. These engines usually don't need much. Parts and trim parts are still not as expensive as some of the other cars, although there's more 123 stuff available. But these cars are dead simple. Nothing ever really goes wrong with them, and that's the boon of having one of these cars. They get amazing fuel economy. They're very underappreciated. Is the 123 a better car? Yes. If you prefer a more classic looking car, or a car that's more robust and tough, 123 240D all day. But if you want just a more modern car that you don't have to adjust the valves on or worry about doing a complete suspension rebuild on, a diesel 201 is like, why not? You know, pretty good usable car if you're on a tight budget as well. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And if you need a dashboard for a 201,
I'm going to have Mike Campbell sell it. Mike's going to